Hey guys, how's it going? It is your boy Manga Man Drew, and I'm here to do my breakdown for Season 6, Episode 7 of My Hero Academia. So let's dive right into the breakdown and talk about the episode. So this episode covers a lot less chapters than in the previous episodes, because the title of this chapter is Disaster Walking, and it covers chapters 276, pages 1 through 3, and 14 through 19, and the entirety of chapters 277, 278, and one page of chapter 279. And this episode actually begins with content that was associated with the previous episode involving newscasts and news people talking about what's going on with Endeavor's fight with Shigaraki, and how there is a cut panel in the anime from the manga, and an actual panel that is cut from the anime that is seen in the manga is just one small panel of seeing the individuals, seeing the newscasters reporting on the incident at hand. But besides that, for the most part, the first part of this episode is just focusing on the fight between Endeavor, Deku, Bakugo, and the rest of the heroes against Tomura and Shigaraki, where we have multiple well-animated scenes of Endeavor versus Tomura Shigaraki that are not necessarily in the manga. And I won't be going over every single one of them, but there are a lot that I find interesting and cool with some added flourishes to them. But we do also get some reused animation and reused scenes from the previous episode to flow into more of the current content. As I said, we do get new added action between Endeavor and Tomura that isn't in the manga, and we also get a very iconic scene from the manga where we see that Tomura Shigaraki is standing on Endeavor and Ryuku, where he is imitating the pose Endeavor took when he fought Hood during the Pro Hero arc. And we got some added background action of the heroes taking on these Nomu while Shigaraki is giving his speech. And those small moments that we see in the background really adds to the anime and really shows that they are in a big massive war and a big massive battle, and I really do enjoy that. But also in this episode, we do get a fair amount of flashback, but what is very interesting about this is that a lot of the flashbacks that we see are actually in the manga. Flashbacks involving Shigaraki and the Doctor, flashbacks involving Aizawa, Bakugo, and Deku. Most of what we see in this episode is actually in the manga. So possibly Horikoshi understood that this is going to be something that the anime could use to help bolster the actual action in the anime that he had in the manga in the anime. As well as in the flashback, we do get a new Nomu design that is not necessarily in the manga. But talking more about the Nomu, we do get an explanation from the Doctor in this episode about what these Nomu are and how they are classified as near high-end Nomu, because they have the power of the high-ends but not the intelligence. As well as we get to see new scenes of these heroes fighting these near high-end Nomu that are not necessarily in the manga. But as I've said, we do get a lot of cool action between the characters of Bakugo, Deku, and Endeavor against Shigaraki in this episode, of Bakugo and Deku coming in to save Aizawa as Shigaraki attempts to attack and kill him. But something I want to point out is the scene where we get to see Bakugo and Deku fighting against Tomura Shigaraki, where we just get this fun scene of Shigaraki throwing Deku across the screen before Endeavor is able to land a hit on him as he's telling Bakugo that he's no longer interested in him. In the manga, that scene plays out a little bit more differently, where both Bakugo, Deku, and Endeavor are on the same scene when Endeavor is attacking Shigaraki in the manga, but because in the anime they decide to throw Deku all the way across, he's not actually in that scene, which actually shows consistency even though it is different from what we get in the manga. And once again, I'm just going to say this again because there's just a lot of good animation between the characters fighting against Shigaraki that is not necessarily in the manga, which is something that we should expect from the anime because the anime tends to add a lot more action than we actually get in the manga, which I do enjoy. But they also do add some smaller transitions that we see from the manga that cannot be really portrayed unless it's in the anime. For instance, when Gran Torino attacks Shigaraki and is telling Tomura at this moment to not tread on Nana Shimura's name, we actually get to see his body bulk up and be muscular, which is something that we see in the manga, but is not explicitly shown that this is something that he actually actively did. And speaking on that scene, there's actually a scene in the anime that is actually done a little bit better in the manga than actually in the anime when it comes to clarity. because as we see that both Gran Torino and Endeavor are fighting against Shigaraki, it is not very clear on how that action occurred or what damage was done to those characters. But in the manga, it's very clear how these characters were heavily injured by Shigaraki coming out of the ground and launching himself in the air. And this is probably going to be the last time I'm going to mention this when it comes to the new added scenes of these characters fighting against Tomura that isn't in the manga, but there is a great combination that actually bolsters a scene in the manga of Bakugo using his explosion gauntlets to attack Shigaraki right before Endeavor uses a vanishing fist. And there is an added scene of Deku just coming in, smashing Shigaraki out of the fire right before Endeavor attacks him. That's not in the manga, and I'm glad that they added that to the anime because it adds a great dynamic and shows that this is a combination move of the heroes actively working together to fight the one villain. As well as, once again, the vanishing fist of this scene is done so well. And I love the added aspect of Endeavor somewhat having wings as he's attacking Shigaraki in this moment. But from there, we get to pretty much the second half of this episode, which is focusing on the fight at Gunga Mountain Villa and what's happening with potentially Gigantomachia and the Class 1A students, as Gigantomachia is the walking disaster. And we do have a short scene of the police officers commenting on what's going on in the war, nothing really new there. But we do get an entire segment in the anime that is not in the manga of Gigantomachia gathering up the League of Villain members before he heads out. And some spotlights for this entire segment that I want to point out are these. Dabi picking up Skeptic, which is going to be playing a massive role in this war later on, as well as just an explanation of how Toka got her clothes from Compress. So these small flourishes really add to the anime, as well as we do get a cut scene of Mount Lady attacking Getten, which I did not think that they were going to have in the anime, but they do add it here. And as Gigantomachia is rampaging and Mount Lady is trying to prevent him from rampaging, we actually get a few moments of the students observing the situation from afar, as well as potentially the conclusion of the fight between Cementos and Getten. And there wasn't really anything new added to that scene, nor was there anything objectively new added to the scene between Redestro versus Edgeshot. But something I did notice is the fact that we do get to see Edgeshot coming out of the arm of Redestro, implying that Edgeshot is able to pierce Redestro even in this hulking state. And we do get to see a little bit more of Edgeshot dodging the blast from Redestro in this scene, but that is something that we technically get in the manga, it's just a little bit more elaborated on. And we also get a added character to a scene that was in the manga where we get to see some of the lieutenants of the Paranormal Liberation Front going and chasing after Gigantomachia. And from here we get towards the end of this episode where we get to see Kamui Wood's Mount Lady as well as Midnight trying to restrain and put down Gigantomachia. And unfortunately, they are all unsuccessful, and we actually get to see the fall more clearly in the anime than in the manga, and it is bad for Midnight. And as Midnight was contemplating how they are going to stop Gigantomachia, this is where the students come more into play. Because she relays to the students that they need a way to put down Gigantomachia, Momo needs to make an anesthetic and either give it to the heroes or just leave. And as she says this, we do get to see one of the individuals come in and attack Midnight, but there is a cut scene of this individual talking that is in the manga, but is not in the anime. And it's not a big thing, but let's just say that this character will potentially be coming back in the future and be playing a bigger role with interactions with the students pertaining to what's going to be happening with Midnight in this scene. So as Midnight gives her final words before the communication is cut off, you have Momo trying to understand and contemplate what's going on, as we see that she and the students begin to take action and begin to formulate a plan to potentially stop Gigantomachia. And with Momo beginning to take charge, we do get an added change of the dialogue that Jiro says, and how in the manga she brings up that Gigantomachia is only 10 seconds away, while in the anime he's less than a minute. Which is not big of a difference, but it does make more sense for him to be a minute away and for this plan to be come up in that time than literally 10 seconds. And pretty much this is where the episode ends, with the added scene of chapter 279 punctuating the students' ability and drive to be heroes and to eventually put a plan in play to stop Gigantomachia. But yeah, that's pretty much all I want to break down for this episode of My Hero Academia Season 6, Episode 7. So, what did you think of the episode? Did you like it? Did you dislike it? And was there anything that I missed in this breakdown that you want to remind me of? Leave your thoughts down in the comments down below, leave a like on the video if you liked it, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more content like this. Do all that cool jazz, and hopefully, I'll be able to catch you in my next video. Goodbye!